Hi everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Charles
And my name is Stefan.
and we're both co-founders of LabV. Today we want to introduce you a new capability of our AI-based assistant. How can you unlock hidden value from documents to knowledge using AI? Before we start, just a few information. Today's webinar is recorded and it's going to be available on demand on the website, probably in the next days. And at the end of the presentation, we are going to ask you some questions using an online tool, and then you have the possibility to use the Q&A function here and ask your questions, and we will try to answer them. What's today's agenda? We want to explain how to generate new value from existing documents. We want to understand how this value is created. We are going to do this using a live demo. And finally, we want to explain you how to get started quickly and easily with such a tool. For those who are new today, LabV is a niche company. We are a software company, and our material intelligence platform is a tool that helps R&D and quality engineers to develop and produce the best products by eliminating inefficient data processing and management, and also providing targeted insights using relevant data so that you can do data or make data-driven decisions. Some of you may have introduced a software in the past or been part of the first digital transformation wave. It used to be called purely digitalization, where you implement Microsoft Excel, for example, or even the LIMS software. Today, many talk about more connected and database software solutions that are using some generic algorithms. It's kind of a digital twin, if you will. And in the future, although the future has already started, we're going to talk about material intelligence much more. And behind that, it's of course software solutions and database frameworks, but it's also AI-based assistant. And we actually think that in the next 5 to 10 years, every R&D and quality control and quality assurance department is going to use the material intelligence platform. We have gathered all the information from our customers over the last 3 years, and what do companies want? If we look at R&D, process engineering, a typical lab, or even quality control, they want more efficiency, time savings. These whole non-value-adding activities like copy pasting and so on are set to disappear. Automation of recurring tasks is the same. We all want better products. We need database decision making. We need also much better products and materials. For example, better performance, more sustainable materials in the use of the end products. We're all looking for more innovation because higher competitiveness means we have to be quicker and shorten the time to market cycles. And we want to generate more growth and turnover. And finally, more knowledge. Why? Because, for example, a whole generation of workers, knowledge workers, is gonna retire in the next years, and every company wants to secure the expertise within the organization and also improve the cross-department cooperation so that the available information and knowledge is usable and accessible for everyone and not just only in silos. Our solution to this problem, or to what organizations wish to have, is a material intelligence platform, which is a software to manage, analyze, and optimize material data. And this software is combining artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data integration to increase the efficiency and innovation within material development and quality control. The approach we are following is basically centralizing all the data from all the sources. It could be device testing equipment. It could be any kind of IT software you have, like an ERP or MES in the production, but it could be also any type of other source. And on top of it, we have introduced our AI-based assistant earlier this year. And today we want to focus on one specific feature, a very new feature. And this new feature is not answering everything or solving all the problems in the world. It's mainly focusing on actually the knowledge part. Before we present the solution, just to give you a little bit some insights from research, customer interviews, and official reports, the challenge for many organizations is to access the information that is available. First of all, many of you must know that it's usually an inconsistent file naming that is the first hurdle that we have to face, right? Different file names make it very difficult to find the required information quickly. But then, even if the naming is right, the folder structure is either missing or not standardized. Many different information sources, very distributed between systems, different softwares, different networks, different folders, very difficult to find. On top of that, you have different names, you miss the structure, you have different sources, and then you have different formats because every source has its own formats, if not more. And at the end, it's actually a data overload, right? We have a lot of data, too much data. We don't know where to find it. And studies show, actually, I don't know if you know it, but that a typical knowledge worker spends roughly 2.5 hours per day searching and looking for information and or data. The question is, what information is being searched for? From a very broad perspective, we talk about material and product data. We could talk about processes and standards, test results and reports, project management related information, for example, timelines or minutes of meetings, communication, collaboration. Someone send me an email, someone send me a message on Microsoft Teams, compliance and regulations. Are there material lists I'm not allowed to use, for example, resources and equipment? Historical data is also a very important one. Systems and access, of course, we all look at some point for a password or the link to a software or whatever tool within the company. And finally, more, I'm going to say operational data, like financial data, that you can also be looking for. As I said, we are not targeting and tackling all the challenges in the whole organization. Our specific part is around R&D and quality control, which is why our assistant new feature is actually solving one part of the problem. So we're going to focus more on everything related to materials and products, processes, test results, compliance regulations, research papers, and so on, but also resources and equipment.
If you would have had a platform like LabV's material intelligence platform for the past 20 or 30 years, you actually would maybe not need the solution we have built right now, because you would have archived all your data in a very structured way, all your measurement data, all the reports you have generated would be archived in a structured way. But most of the times, as Charles already explained, this has not happened in the past because there was no system in place. So what most companies have is that they have a lot of documents, like PDF documents, and to bring them into our platform is in most of the cases not applicable or not possible. So what our approach was to make use of this historical data that you have gathered over times, is to use the AI assistant that you can browse this data and actually talk to your data. You can search it, you can summarize it, you can also translate documents. And how does it work? So basically you take all your documents you have, like, for example, manuals of your measurement equipment or production equipment. You can take material data sheets, maybe test reports you have, also research papers or some kind of standards and so on. You can take all these documents, basically collect them in a specific folder, and then you can use, or to browse these documents, you can use the LabV solution. And the LabV solution is based on two things. On the one hand, it's a database, basically a vector database. So we take all the documents you have gathered in a SharePoint, for example, and these documents are then broken down into single text modules. And these text modules, they are basically ranked or connected with vectors. And these vectors are kind of a calculation how similar specific text modules are. And with these, with this database, our AI assistant later on you can use our AI assistant to ask questions and also get answers. And if you ask a question, it's basically translating it, searching in the database for text modules that can answer this question, and then give text back based on the text modules that have been found in the database. What are, let's say, use cases for this kind of technology? Of course, if you have norms and standards that you have to follow, you can browse exactly these norms and standards. You don't have to look them up. You can just ask the AI assistant. You can, of course, search through research papers, for example, you have gathered over times, could also be like books or something. Then, of course, all the test reports that have been generated over the past in your departments, in your R&D and QC departments, specific material data, like material data sheets. Then, of course, if you want to operate your equipment or do some maintenance, you can also use the AI assistant as a source to browse these documents. And what we also see as a big advantage is the possibility that you can use the same tool in your complete network, R&D network, for example, independent of the language you're using. Normally, everybody is documenting his knowledge or his results in their own language, and this is somehow language independent, as most of the LLMs, or as LLMs at the end are. So let's have a look at the live demo. We have prepared a bunch of documents, actually not so many documents, just a few, to show a bit how it looks like and how you can work with our assistant. So I'm just starting here. Just telling him, hi, I'm Stefan, and he can give me some feedback. Who are you? And how can you assist me? So typical German, our AI assistant is called Otto, or he calls himself Otto. Of course, you can also use your own name if you're not familiar, or somehow if you don't like this first name. He just explains me he can help us with measurement data from labs and support us also with other inquiries. Basically, so our assistant's also capable of doing a lot of calculations, but here we are focusing, as Charles said, on the knowledge part. Just asking him where he is right now. And of course, we are, if he calls the back end, so the document, he normally takes some time to search through the database. To give me a quick feedback. So let's wait for a second here. let's give it another try. 1 second, I'm just reloading it once. And let's start with asking him for specific information. So a typical question could be you're, for example, new to a lab or new to an instrument and you want to perform a specific measurement. For example, a dilatometer measurement. So there's a manual in the back from Netsch, and I'm asking him now, I want to carry out a dilatometer, oh, not a Scylla, a dilatometer measurement. I'm standing in front of a Netsch DIL 402. Can you tell or can you give me a step by step how to proceed? So typical issue would there be, I'm new to this instrument. I want to understand how it's working. Please look at the documents. Of course, I can look for the manual. Of course, I can search in the manual how it's working and what I have to do. And this is just another way of searching or browsing this manual. He should give me now an answer on based on the manual what the steps are. So you can see here, if I want to carry out a dilatometer measurement on this device, I have to follow these steps here. And a lot of times, when we talk about generative AI, we also talk about, let's say, how can I make sure that the answer he gives me here is really based on the right facts. So is it really, for example, based on this device, or is he just hallucinating somehow? And to understand this, we can see here the sources. If I click here to the sources, I basically see all the documents that are that his answers or the answers of the assistant are based on. So for example, here it's the manual in English of the dilatometer 402, and he's used page 90, 99, and 65. And if I click here on this device, on the file, he opens the file and also jumps directly to the right page where he gathered the information from, and I can see also the pictures here, which also, of course, helps me once again in operating the instrument. And I can use this, of course, also, for example, if I want to do some calibration, I can have I have the possibility here to also ask him, how do I calibrate, for example? How do I calibrate the displacement system of the Netsch dilatometer? And ask him also for that. So if I have to do some maintenance or calibration, I'm not sure how to actually work or what are the right steps and so on. I also can use it, of course, for this kind of questions here. So basically, it's a good tool for operation or maintenance manuals. They can be wonderfully integrated and used as a knowledge base. Okay, if I want, but I can also look for other things. For example, if I'm interested in specific materials, I could ask him, for example, what is the density of ExxonMobil LD252? We have a specification sheet here, which we can use. Or there's a specification sheet basically from or material data sheet from ExxonMobil in the database. So I can, for example, use him to understand or to find specific parameters or values of a material. This could also be an application for such a tool. Of course, I can look for this data sheet then and find the right value. The other possibility is to directly ask the assistant. So what we get here is the density is 0.923. We can also here look in the sources. The primary source he has used is the product data sheet here. And of course, I can open up that sheet, and there I see all the information and also the density here, which for which I have asked him. All right. So let's check for another example. So for example, I'm looking for a specific standard. Today, everything is a bit about polymers. We have a standard, a DIN standard, which is about crystallization kinetics. And if I ask him which equations are applicable for the crystallization kinetics of polymers according to DIN standard. He can also help me with these kind of questions. So if I have the right documents in place, he of course can use these documents for me and help me and save time to gather the information I need. It takes a second or a few seconds basically till he has searched through the database. He normally also rephrases the question a few times. And this is interesting what is happening right now. He's just copying the same answer that I've asked him before about the density of the ExxonMobil. That's exactly what he does now once again. So once again, it's the same answer, but I asked a different question. And this happens because we have a very limited database at the moment, only a few documents that are in there. And if he doesn't find the right document, or if the scoring is just too low, then he just repeats the question from before. I can once again ask him in standard document. So I can rephrase it a bit, ask him once again, but this is something that's because of the limited database, basically. So if you have a larger database, then it's easier for him. If the documents can be structured in the database and so on, it's easier for him to always do a proper scoring and find the right documents. So let's check if he can work with that here. So you see everything is live. There's the answer. So now he has find the right document, and he suggests different equations we can use. This is not, or this is something we are still working on, so that he can use these formulas here. That we have a better format for it. You can see here he has used this document. And he already jumps. It's a German document, so here you see the different equations. So you can also understand these equations or just look them up here. A last example, which I would like to take is I will ask him for one thing where I want to demonstrate to you how let's say an R&D network can work together. Also, if they're using different languages. I mean, we saw with this question already that you can, of course, work with German and English, but to make it a bit more complex, I will ask him for a specific document. I will ask him which Netzstilatometer is suitable for a temperature range of greater than 2000 degree. And what does it cost? So last question for the demo. And of course, I don't want to sell you a Netzstilatometer right now. It's just for a demonstration purpose. So let's wait with what he comes up with. All right, so he tells me he would go for the Netzstilatometer 402 Expedis Supreme, which goes up to 2,800 degrees, and he tells me it's 11 million yen. So why does he tell me the currency price in yen? The reason is that he's using a Netsch document, which is from Netsch Japan. So if you go there, everything is in Japanese. So what we do see is that especially in companies that have multiple R&D sites, whether, for example, you have an R&D site in Japan, everybody can basically document all the results, all the measurements, everything in their own language. And the assistant can also browse through these documents and can translate them in the language you have asked your question. So that's another feature I think that's also of big interest if you are a global company or have multiple sites, so that you can also use the global knowledge basically. Charles.
Thank you. Let's share a couple of information and details. I'm pretty sure some of you are wondering how this whole thing works. We tried to simplify it a little bit. So when you, as a user, send a request or type a question, first of all, the first step is going to be a contextual search. So the tool, our assistant, is analyzing the user request, and he's performing a semantic search in our database. Then the query is processed, which means the question or the request from the user is going to be reprocessed and reformulated a couple of times so that we can expand, or the assistant can expand the base, the search base, and then provide more precise results at the end. After doing that, the tool is going to prioritize the results, identifying and sorting out the most relevant documents that can be considered as a good source based on the content that matches the request. And after that comes the summary. So the tool is basically extracting the key insights and the key content to answer the question and creating a summary that is then in the final step displayed in a text form so that we as humans understand the answer. So that's a rough basic explanation of what's happening when you ask a question and when you see that our assistant is processing and working on the answer, when you see the bubbles with the 3 points that we have seen in the live demo. How can you start? How can you prepare for the application and the use of such an assistant? Well, first of all, you should collect documents. try to compile all the most important content in PDFs, PDF files. Could be reports, manuals, whatever you have that you think could have a value and you may use quite frequently in one place. This one place could be also very structured. That would probably help. Organize the documents in categories so that our assistant can dive a little bit deeper and understand also where to find which document. Then you should be sure and make sure that every document is up to date. And also we don't have double data saved. So whatever is old and not usable or shouldn't be used anymore, whatever is in two different versions in the database should be cleaned so that the assistant can actually provide the best quality in the answers. And finally, the same thing applies for the future, just a regular care, making sure to add new documents every time something interesting appears, and keep the database up to date as well. So keep it clean and keep it always in the newest version of documents that evolve all the time. Of course, it's different for historical data, like old reports, for example. All right. Before we start with the questions, I would like to share some questions with you. Let me share the right window here. So you can see here, let me move the QR code quickly to the top right. If you take your smartphone, it's very easy. You just scan the QR code and you're going to be redirected to a link. It takes just a few seconds. Just scan it, and then we have 4 questions for you. And then we're going to answer the questions that you asked because we already have some in the queue. So, and the first question, while you're all taking your phones and logging in, the first question would be for us, how much time do you spend searching for data every day in your own work? We have seen some statistics earlier before, and it would be interesting for us to understand how it looks like for you. So it could be very little, so not really relevant, up to 1 hour a day, maybe 1 to 2 hours a day, more than 2 hours a day, maybe you can't estimate it. Let's wait some seconds so that everyone gets into the questions. So 1 to 2 hours, up to 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours, which would be in the standards of the different reports and the information we shared earlier, right? Depending on the reports you find, it goes for knowledge worker from 1.8 to 2.5 hours per day. 2.5 hours being obviously the worst case scenario. All right, seems that it's definitely a lot of time that goes on onto it. Let's switch maybe to the next one. Just a few seconds. The next question is about the amount of documents that you have stored somewhere in the organization that you think could have a lot of value for you. If you have a feeling for it, just try to give us a number. It doesn't have to be exact. We just want to get the feeling from the situation on your side. So is it a lot, hundreds, thousands of documents, maybe 0 documents because you have a software solution, or it could also be 0 documents because you don't actually create any or use any other documents. All right. Next question. How would you rate the added value of our assistant for your organization regarding the new feature we just introduced? Try to rank it or give us a approximation, like what's the feeling? Do you see a low value or no value at all, or maybe a very high value for your organization if you were able to search through the whole documents as demonstrated today? And finally, if you want to answer that, because we are working on different options to use this feature in this and create this value with the AI assistant. Would you be interested in testing our assistant? Yes, no, maybe you need more information first. Just let us know so that we get a feeling for what we could offer and suggest in the next weeks, next year. Would be very helpful. All right. Let's now go back to our final slides. Basically, do you have any questions? You can use the Q&A, the Q&A function here, and we will publish the questions. I'm publishing the first one. Louis is asking if the software reads an image PDF file scan, or is able to read a software, an image scan in a PDF or not.
Yeah, that's a good question, Louis. Basically, it's if the scanner is able to do an OCR scan, this would definitely be needed so that the assistant can, or the database basically can really build these text blocks out of the document. If it's just a pure image, then it's not possible. To check if it's an image or if OCR, you can use, for example, on a PDF, if you're able to somehow mark the text and copy and paste it, then it's also in a way that the assistant can use it.
All right. Is there any more question? Any other question? I don't see any question coming in. In this case, I would just thank everyone for taking part and taking the time to look at what we have developed. Thank you for the live demo, Stefan. And as usual, you'll get a follow-up email in the upcoming hours and days with the link to this recording. And we will come back to you next year, or very early next year, with some news regarding our AI assistant as well. Thank you very much.